I believe I could find more happiness with your That's right, girl. I'll be your friend at the very end. That's right, girl.
Rookie police officers leave the academy for the streets of Chicago in the best condition of their lives, full of strength, full of ideals. Within a short time, many of them develop problems, both of body and mind. On the average, 1 of every 3 officers has serious health problems, ulcers, heart attacks, depression, alcoholism. A policeman is 3 times more likely to commit suicide than you or me. Why? What's happened? We call it stress. These police officers are not alone. Their families suffer too, and the entire community, all of us. I'm Joel Daly. You'll learn why in a moment.
Officer friendly. Remember him and all the safety posters? That's the image we want. A policeman who's helpful, compassionate, understanding. But the fact is, it's damn tough to be officer friendly out here on the street.
The things that we see day in and day out are just absolutely not seen by other people. We see things that are just absolutely atrocious.
Police work is dirty work. A few years ago, Sergeant Patrick Ward received a phone call from 2 patrolmen dispatched to a Coast Guard station. They were assigned to transfer the body of a drowning victim to a hospital for processing. It had been in the water for 6 months. The sergeant gave them this advice.
I said, do you have a filter cigarette in your pocket? Yeah. I said, take the filter tip off the cigarette. And I said, put it up both nostrils while you're in and around handling the body. He says, filters, for what? I said, well, number 1, I said, it'll cut down on the aroma surrounding you. And I said, number 2, the smell gets in the hair follicles on the nose, and that'll stick with you for a number of hours. He said, we're gonna look stupid, you know, walking around with things sticking out of my nose. They didn't know whether I was kidding them or not. I actually was trying to help them. I said, it's very, very important, though, for you to understand. When you place the body into the wagon, don't hit too many bumps on the way to the morgue. The flesh is just like parboiled meat, and it will open up. And it's it's a tremendous, awfully bad thing to witness. So I followed them over to the morgue, and they were doing right up to the edge of the morgue. And the one lad just hit the fence a little too hard. And when they opened up the door, I knew that the thing we're all worried about, concerned about, had happened. And they just sat there in the wagon. They didn't even get out. They just sat and looked straight ahead.
It was a quiet Sunday morning. In fact, we were getting ready to quit. And the call come in that there was a man standing on the steps over on Orchard Street. And this man, from what the person said that called, had blood all over his hands. So about 3 of us went over there in our squad cars, When we got there was a man, in fact, standing on the stairs, and he had blood dripping from both hands. And we started asking him what happened. Was he hurt? Did somebody beat him up, or what happened? He says, no, I just killed my 3 babies. Or words to that effect. That's a long time ago. I forget. So we asked him where he lived, and he pointed upstairs. And we went upstairs. And if you want to talk about a shock that a policeman will run into, there were little babies in a tub. And the water, hold on a minute. The water was blood red. And a little kid's arm was, hold on a minute. I still think about that. Anyway, he just killed his two little babies. I forget how old they were, 4 or 5 years old. And you could see a little hand sticking out of the water and a leg sticking out of the water, and had to pull the children out of the tub.
Kenny Johnson is no longer a policeman. After 26 years on the force and 80 departmental awards, he took off his star and unbuckled his gun a few years ago. He'd had enough. Bodies, the blood, bullet wounds, the broken bones, and the smell. One can never really get used to it. And they can plan, and they can train, and go by the book, but someone's always rewriting the book. Detective Terry Gaynor recalls a risky operation in which he was the key man in a plan to capture 2 very dangerous killers.
The plan was for me to hide in the back seat and be driven to that location by Mrs. Record, and that the 4 or 5 other detective cars would meet us and converge on the scene once we had identified the suspects. I laid down in the back seat of the car, and I asked Mrs. Record, the offender's mother, to be my eyes. And I, at that point, was constantly giving directions over the radio to the other cars what position we were in. I said we had crossed 87th Street and we were approaching the entrance to the Jewel food store parking lot. As I pulled in, I kept broadcasting over the radio, but I didn't get any response. Mrs. Record started screaming, "There they are," and I peeked up and I could see the 2 of them standing there. And I was yelling into the radio, "I can see him now, let's move in." And no one responded. At that point, I really knew that I was by myself, and I screamed into the radio, "10-1, police officer needs help. Anybody who's listening on this frequency, please come in." As soon as the car stopped, I got out quickly because I didn't want to get caught in the back seat. I could see both of the murder offenders were standing there. I had the radio in my left hand and a gun in the right, and Mrs. Record was running right in front of me. I was concerned at that time. I knew I was by myself. I looked around quickly, and I couldn't see anybody else here. And at that point, both of them were starting to run. The one fella, Robinson, ran into the store. I wrestled briefly with Renee Record out here, the other offender, and was able to handcuff her to the rack. I knew that the only other way for Robinson to get out of the store was the next exit south of here. I ran that way, and I was still by myself. There wasn't any other police officers around. Just as I got to this exit, the offender came running out these doors and dove under a car that was parked nearby. Coincidentally, 2 policemen had overheard my calls for help, and they too had just pulled up. As I went to one side of the car, the other 2 policemen went to the other side and pulled the offender from the car, and he was placed under arrest.
Staring at death, smelling it, barely avoiding it. Not the kind of job that encourages nice dreams or ready smiles. It's the kind of job that changes people, even destroys them.
I think seeing the negative aspects of life and the criminal element all the time and death, I think it makes you very callous after a while. No matter how hard you may try to fight it, it's got to affect you that way. It has to make you callous. It has to make you callous just to keep you out here, to keep your own sanity.
I remember The first night I ever went on the street when I got out of the academy, and I had my little shiny uniform on and my brand new gun and my hat, and it was real exciting. And the first thing that was said to me when I got in the car with an old-timer was, just remember, kid, it's all bull. Nothing's real and nothing's any good out there. And that's the attitude that can develop, that you begin to be so cynical and so caught up in the fact that people are not what they seem to be, or a lot of people are not what they seem to be, that you don't trust anybody or anything. The only thing you can trust is yourself.
Sir, you're going to be arrested for abusing keeper of a house.
We see such damn things that we get cynical about life. It happens to all of us. There are days that I go through that you get cynical. Everything is bull. We all go through that bull period. That's bull, you know. And you can't wait to get to the bar at night to have a few drinks to get away from it, where the bartender is forced to be nice to you.
A lot of police officers, the stress quite often makes them turn to drinking. Either it's a stress from the job, not being able to maybe handle it on an everyday basis. A lot of times it may be stress at home. Maybe the wife can't handle the job. She can't handle the hours. And a combination of two things, a lot of times a police officer may start drinking a little more heavily than he intended to. And before you know it, it becomes an alcoholic problem.
You see the worst in people. You never see the best in people. And I think if there was a drinking problem to begin with, I think possibly the job could aggravate it.
And it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem to the police department because they start missing work, the hangovers. It makes their personalities change. All the whole gamut that alcohol causes affects us a lot. But I'd say that the big reason why it's a problem with us more so than maybe it might be with undertakers or lawyers or school teachers is the availability of it in the hours we work. And boy, after some nights out there on the street, you want to wind down, and alcohol's a good way.
Drinking, getting drunk, dousing their memory with alcohol, it's not every time or every cop, but it's a symptom of a problem. The need to escape, to turn off the world by whatever means available. Stress is as common as the common cold. There is no place, no job, no person who can escape. So what's different about being a cop? That's their job. Their job. Their job to shoot, to be shot at. Their job to look around the corners and over their shoulders. A policeman never knows when and where his life may be threatened.
It was a rainy night. It just had stopped raining. And we were parked right here at Ogden and Holman.
Officer Tom Fitzgerald and his partner were on a routine patrol. Nothing big going down, just a car that attracted their attention.
We observed a vehicle pull out of the alley here, just like this vehicle over here, cross the street, and go into the alley here. My partner and I were curious why they were cruising the alleys of Ogden Avenue. And when I turned into the alley, I observed a vehicle approximately where this white vehicle is right here by the telephone pole. When the vehicle we were following reached the mouth of the alley, it failed to stop and turn left on the Trumbull. So at this time, we hit the car with our spotlight and pulled them over right in front of this house here, 1924 South Trumbull. Do I remember? As I exited the squad car, I observed there was three people, two in the front seat, one in the back seat. The man in the back seat, I recall very plainly, had a gold earring on. As I walked to the side of the vehicle, the passenger in the front stepped out of the automobile.
So he stands up on the curb. As he steps up on the curb, he had a 3/4 length leather jacket on. He raised his right arm and dropped a double-barrel sawed-off shotgun under his arm, which he grabbed with his left hand, and he stuck it in my abdomen. At which time I reached across, and I grabbed the end of the shotgun, and we began to struggle over the shotgun, and at the same time, I drew my own revolver. The offender fired, and he struck me in the right side and the right arm. My partner ran over. He got the radio from me. They called for assistance. I was taken to St. Anthony's Hospital. I was hospitalized at St. Anthony's Hospital for approximately a month. I underwent surgery twice to repair the arm.
The adrenaline comes first. The shock comes later and has a lasting effect. That's the way it was for officers Jay Schroeder and Bob Greenwald. They were after a man, had him cornered, ordered him to halt.
I hadn't gone 20 feet maybe up the side of the building. I heard one shot and then another one and then a whole series.
As I came around the corner, he was standing there in the gangway. The gangway was dark. I could see his silhouette with his right arm extended with a gun in it. I was going to try to hit the ground, but he immediately shot me as soon as I came around the corner. And I heard a sucking sound in my chest. I knew I had a bad wound, so I covered up the wound. Started to lay down over on that side. And Jay called me and asked me if I was okay. I says, no, I'm hit. Started coughing up blood and that. I remember in the hospital, laying on the emergency room table. My wife walked in and I says, I can take this job and shove it.
That's like he was my partner and got shot while I was there, and that's not supposed to happen. I not only didn't prevent it, I didn't get the guy that did it. You know.
I spent a year over in Vietnam, saw a lot of combat, didn't get a scratch over there. I thought it was kind of a joke when people talked about the dangers of the job.
3 years passed before Bob Greenwald was able to pin on his badge and return to the street. His former partner, Jay Schroeder, opted to stay and work behind the desk. Survival is a basic drive. It's automatic. We usually react to danger in one of two ways. Either we run and hide, or we stay and fight. A cop has the same instincts, but he doesn't always have the same choice.
Police officers are required, by the nature of their job, to find a third alternative, something in between running away and overpowering it, because there are most often times when that overpowering force is not called for, either lawfully or ethically, morally, however you want to say it. So he has to find something in the middle and deny his instinctive emotional reactions to that situation.
Form 2 rings.
That elusive something in the middle.
Close to the boat, that's right.
It's like walking a tightrope. One misstep can spell tragedy. If a cop makes a mistake, it could be final. Someone could be crippled or killed for something he didn't do.
I was assigned to the 1st District Police Department Tactical Unit. My partner and I were on the pickpocket detail in the subway station at Randolph and State Street on this particular evening. We observed a man jump the turnstile. Halfway down the steps, we were able to catch the man and identify ourselves as policemen. He immediately pushed me down about 10 stairs. Fortunately, I was able to grasp the handrail and hold on to keep from falling all the way down the stairs. In the meantime, the man started to run. He ran back up the stairs, and at that point, we were both in pursuit. I was able to follow the man. I chased the man through Marshall Fields, down Wabash, and to this point, right here is where I finally was able to catch up with the suspect. Fortunately for me, there were cars along here. He was on that side of the car, and I was on this side of the car. I ordered the suspect to turn around and face the wall. When he didn't, all he kept saying to me was, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. But the man was facing me. I was on this side of the car, and he had his hand in his pocket, in his suit coat pocket, as he had a gun. I immediately told him, I drew my gun and told him to face the wall and take his hand out of his pocket. He didn't do anything. He just kept repeating to me, I don't have anything, I don't have anything, with a gesture with his hand in his pockets as if he had a gun. So I told him, I said, mister, I'll kill you if you don't face the wall and take your hand out of your pocket. All he kept repeating was, I don't have anything, I don't have anything. At that point, I stationed myself behind the car and again ordered the man to face the wall and take his hand out of his pocket. At that point, he turned around, faced the wall, and took his hands out of his pocket. Fortunately, after that happened, I was able to go up and search the suspect, and I didn't find anything.
First rank, prepare for revolver inspection. Inspection. Revolver.
We had a call that a man with a gun on the street at 63rd and Peoria. We arrived at the scene. He had the gun pointed at the individual. We both got out of the car, told him to drop the weapon. He turned and pointed the weapon at us, and then he turned and ran, and we fired at him, both of us. And in finding out later that the weapon that he had was a toy gun. So what is the reaction that the public would have that I should have done at that particular time?
Where you might come into a situation where somebody's yelling out the window, help, officer, I've been robbed, attacked, he just robbed me, he killed my husband, etc., etc. And it's just strictly a verbal thing that you might hear or see, and you see somebody running. You have no idea what this person did, and you try to catch him the best you can physically by pursuing him on foot, etc., etc. You have no idea that you're justified at this time using deadly force because you see no act, and you saw no weapon in the person's hand.
A cop takes an oath to serve and protect. But on the street, those are just words. Serving, protecting may mean shooting, even killing. What if it's a mistake?
And that fear of making a mistake becomes a burden that causes some people to retire early. They wear the uniform, they go to work, but they avoid getting into most anything they can avoid because then they don't have to worry about making decisions. The mistakes that are made are so stressful because they can deal with life and death. If you make a mistake with a gun, you might have killed somebody and you can never bring him back.
Get over here. Right here. Right there. Spread your legs. Spread them.
There have been cases that I remember where the police officer lost the suspect because he had every justification as looking back on it if he would have shot the man. But the indecision and the fact that he wasn't sure whether he was right, he let the guy go.
Rather than do something wrong, a policeman may not do anything at all, which means the bad guy goes free, back out here on the streets with you and me. But where does that leave us? Who's going to protect us if the policeman can't or won't? I'll be back. Chicago policemen are well trained. They know the law, they learn the rules. But out on the street, the rules don't always apply. There, the decision is often left up to them. No time to think, to consult, just do it. But what if a cop overreacts?
Stand straight and keep your mouth closed.
What if someone gets hurt?
Keep your hands on the car.
When is it reasonable? When is it overreaction? Where does a cop draw the line?
Quite often you stop a person in a gun situation, a person has a gun, you get nervous, you get uptight, you get tense.
And you don't know what's going on in that cop's mind that day when he goes to work.
What are you doing in the alley?
Well, this is where they were, so.
Huh? It's a birthday party?
No,
Birthday party in the alley?
No.
Give me something with your address.
And so his level of tolerance may be a lot lower and or higher depending on how he feels.
Or what?
Clean them up, dump them out.
Sometimes you're just talking loud. Come on, dump them out. Right here. Dump them out.
Go. Dump them and put them in the garbage can.
Open them up, dump them
They're
out.
not mine.
I don't care.
You got it. We dump them all out. I'm gonna take them all
You don't want to do it?
Dump them out.
But they're not my beers. I said do it.
Some police officers get, the stress builds up in them so much that when they do make an arrest or something, they may overreact. And this is where you get maybe your brutality beats. A lot of times brutality is from overreaction.
And I'll tell you what, you want to get smart? You can get smart in the station.
You know, your tolerance on certain days it's more than it is on other days.
Pick up the bags.
And then that's where the resistance comes in at. That's where an easy arrest turns into a fight.
Go back in your party and have your fun. Don't be out here anymore, huh?
To be in control on the streets, a good cop has to be in control of himself.
It's against the law.
But it doesn't end on the street with the suspect arrested, booked, mugged, and fingerprinted. The policeman has to work hard to prepare his case for court.
They should tell you the bartender, he didn't say, I just walked in.
You gave the wrong answer. You said
you turn around and, really beat the bush, chase an individual down, work up a good case, you got a good victim, you go to court with all the testimony, you put on a real good case, there's very little evidence against the individual that he didn't commit the crime, and the judge up and gives him probation. 2 weeks later, you're out arresting the same individual for the same crime.
You got to remember, every time you go to court, quite often it's on your own time. A lot of officers get a little discouraged. Why should I be going to court on my day off? Or why should I be going to court on my off hours? It's not doing any good. They're throwing it out anyhow. The cases are being tossed.
I think it bothers some police officers if an arrestee is let go by the courts. They take it personal, and I think after a few times, an officer may feel that it's useless to even bother, and that it makes them very complacent and just not want to get involved in anything. Just put in an 8-hour tour and forget about it.
If the policeman gives up or pulls back in frustration, it means the bad guy gets back out on the street, back out there with all of us.
We're looking for a guy 25 years old driving a yellow and white Cadillac. Like yours.
So,
I don't think, wrong guy. These plates from back with this Cadillac?
then there's the other extreme, the cop who's always on duty, for whom the day is never done, the job never over.
New plates on the phone.
Well, most police officers, when they're off duty, always consider themselves as being on duty, because when you're off duty, after you've forgotten about the job or what you think you should forget about the job, you always find yourself doing little things that make you feel you're still at work. While you're driving in your personal car, you'll notice a car go in front of you, and you always take a look at the license plate and notice what color of the car, what year, make, and model of the car. And that's because you've been doing that all day.
My husband was a police officer 24 hours a day. There were many times when we would be out in the car, and policemen are trained to be very observant, and all of a sudden he would notice, oh, wait a minute, it's a green 67 Buick convertible. You know, that's the one that was on the hot sheet.
Officer Bill Diaz was off duty one day. He had family obligations, driving his wife and 18-month-old son to a doctor, when he noticed a man acting suspiciously.
So I proceeded up to the corner of Hood Street, and the black man was walking behind a elderly lady who was pulling a grocery cart behind her. I told my wife, I says, I don't know if he's looking for a house to break into or if he's going to grab this old lady. So my wife says to me, she says, boy, I think she's going to grab the old lady. But now the man walks up behind her, and instead of grabbing her, which they normally do, he walks past her to the alley. He gets to the alley, he looks up and down the alley, turns around, looks her right in the eye, comes running at her, grabs her purse, knocks her to the ground, and starts running. Right about then, I was right about at the corner. I pulled my car up, threw it in park, turned the ignition off. I told my wife, I screamed to my wife, help the old lady, and I jumped out. And I thought about my son being in the car and my wife on the street. I didn't know if this fellow was armed or not, but I guess it's second nature just to to involve yourself in a pursuit, so I jumped out of the car and I told the guy, stop, I'm a police officer, which time he bumped me and continued to run, and he ran westbound on Hood. So I chased him all the way up to Clark Street, which time he crossed the street and headed back, doubled back on me. He was headed like in the direction of my automobile, which my 18-month-old son was sitting in a baby car seat and he was strapped in. My wife is out of the car helping the old lady, and I became quite frightened at the time that he was going to jump in the car because I had left the ignition, the keys in the ignition. And just before he got to the corner, he cut into a gangway and he attempted to scale a gate. I grabbed him by the legs on the gate. He turned around, looked at me, and said he was going to cut me up if I didn't let him go. He grabbed me, and I kept telling him, I'm a police officer, you're under arrest. And he tore up my shirt. I threw him down. Big struggle ensued, and finally I managed to subdue him. But I was quite frightened at the time for my family more than for myself. I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know if the guy was armed and something seriously could happen to them. But like I said, it's, I guess it's instinct more than anything else to act and then think about it later on.
Bill Diaz is lucky to have an understanding wife, but it's never easy. For many policemen and their wives, maintaining a normal relationship is very difficult.
When you're married to a policeman, you have to accept the fact that he's going to work 3 shifts. And that's not a normal life. It's not normal. Your eating habits are not normal. Being with the children are not normal. And the way my husband was, he wanted me here when he was home. So if there was even a church meeting, I couldn't go. I mean, he would say, you're not going to go to church with me home, are you?
You can't really plan things in advance, you know, with this job here, because something might come up where you have to go to court, or that your days off are canceled because of some situation.
Everybody else over 17?
It's not just the hours and the uncertainty that affect family life.
What time we make it?
It's the environment in which they work, the problems with which they must deal.
You got $50, suppose?
On the street, compared to those they face at home.
Spend the night then. You got some friends that give you $50, don't you?
I think that because policemen deal with black and white on a day-to-day basis.
All right, well, let's go to Schubert Kimball.
This is the law. The law was broken.
I'm going to give it to him.
You're going to have to, because it's not...
You want to lock him on me? Lock him on.
Well, that's what we're going to do then. We're going to lock you up.
I think that there's a tendency to bring that into the home.
No, la policía no te va a dejar solo. He's not a working man.
To want to establish laws and to look at things just as black or white, and have some difficulty in dealing with the gray areas in between. And certainly when you're dealing with people, there's a lot of gray in there.
It's pretty demanding on your family. I imagine that's why a lot of them, you know, plus you have a lot of problems in the street.
Tú quieres quedarte en la cárcel, pudrite ahí, okay?
And you go home and you try to adjust to the problems at home.
That's why he's
always threatening me.
that she's going to kill, that he's going to kill her.
Yeah, that's why I think where a lot of problems come in with the families and that.
We all have family problems, and we take those problems with us to work. That's natural. It's inevitable. But what if you're a cop? What happens when he's had a bad day at home?
A guy comes to work, his wife was ragging him all day, the kids are shoplifting, they're not coming home from school, I think they're smoking, Tommy took a drink, and she's ragging him all day long. He's got to get to work at 3 o'clock, the kids aren't home from school yet, he's got to see him when he comes home, or maybe the next day. Now he's got that uniform on, he's out there. And he's being, he's thrusting himself, he's involved with other people's lives. If his home life is not stable when he leaves, if he's not a stable person, how can he perform any sort of function for another human being when he's not in a stable situation himself?
He wants only when the court...
Let's get the car. I want to get the car parked, and I want to take her to... I want to take him to pick up the daughter.
In other words, if he stops a traffic violator shortly after a roll call, where normally it would be for a minor violation, he may even give the person a warning. But because he started off so doggone bad in the morning, he may give that guy a ticket just out of releasing some hostility.
We'll be back after this.
Well, right now we gotta try to get the daughter
The
right now.
welfare.
.46, 1028s are not coming back. All District 2 cars, we're not getting 27s or 28s back.
When we think about police work, we have images of sirens screaming, cars speeding, guns shooting.
At the moment, 246, I'm not even getting those.
That's what we get from television. The fact is, much of the job is strictly routine. A lot of it is boring.
Now I have it. Tom X-ray 245 is clear. KSB 233.
But can a cop ever take it easy?
We received this radio call, a routine burglar alarm call at the tavern over here. And me and my partner pulled up in front of the tavern. We looked through the window of the front door and observed a male by the pool table. The person answered the door. We advised him that his burglar alarm went off, and he stated that he was the owner of the place and that he failed to call in and let him know that he was opening up. So with this, we left the tavern and got back in our squad car. A couple minutes later, we received a call from the communications room again that, in fact, that we were talking to a man, the hold-up man in the tavern. We came back over to the tavern and talked to the original owner. And he told us that 3 men came in, 2 with sawed-off shotguns, and another man. The 2 men with the sawed-off shotguns were behind the pool table, and the other man who let us in was the other offender. As we were talking to the owner, they said that the 2 men behind the pool table stated to the other offender to let the policeman come in, and we'll take care of them, which we assume either kill us, shoot us, or hurt us.
Be very wary. Be very wary of people. There's a lot of nice guys out there that'll stop for you. And this guy may be wanted back in New York, bond forfeiture. They got to keep their eyes open. You can't take anything for granted.
What happens is you have to have a high degree of suspicion about people in general in order to survive on the street. You have to look at people and be very, very cautious in order to not get hurt, and also to prevent other people from getting hurt. You can't just take people at face value.
They're suspicious, they're defensive and on guard. They have to be in order to survive.
Who's fighting? Yeah. Is it registered?
Yes, registered.
With the police department it's registered?
A policeman never knows who's going to commit a crime or when. And that creates even more pressure, more stress. Policemen often feel apart from the rest of us, as if we don't understand them, respect them, or support them. It's a problem of attitude. But let's remember how most of us usually come in contact with a cop.
Either in 2 situations. One, where they're a victim of a crime, and you naturally, if not immediately, get where were the police when they needed them, or if they were stopped for a traffic violation. You know, and then the other comment is that all you have to do is give out tickets, or did you get your quota?
I remember I was amazed when I put that uniform on and dealt with people on the street the first few months to find out that the uniform automatically meant to some people that I was a brutal fascist pig who stole money and liked to beat people up. And then on the other side, you have people who look upon you as some kind of oppressive force to keep certain elements of society out of their way, to create a system where those people who are deprived by circumstance or by choice out of the political and economic and social mainstream. And you are seen by those people as an oppressive force, and that's what they want to use you for. So you're caught between those images, and none of which relate to you as a human being when you're out there in the job.
It's a jungle out there, so they say. But a cop has to deal with it firsthand. The misery, the tragedy, the risk. They have to be cool, in control. But having a strong stomach doesn't necessarily mean a healthy one.
strictly as my opinion, when a officer goes through a lot of this, I think it affects him mentally and physically, and because they see the wrong side, the bad side, the rotten side of human life.
Well, most policemen, over the years, they develop different health problems. Each individual is different, but I find out there's a lot of high blood pressure, hypertension, stomach problems, ulcers, and I feel it's all job related because we're thrown in so many stressful situations at any given time.
The heart attack for police officers is probably the largest killer of all policemen. It's not the gunfire, it's not accidents, it's the heart attack. And stress can, of course, bring this upon.
In all the studies of stress, policemen are high on the list. The pressures are obvious. The symptoms are many. But there's one source of stress a cop doesn't even like to think about. Yet he lives with it every day. The fact that at any given time, he could lose his life. Jean Bosak, a policeman's wife, will never forget the day two of her husband's friends, fellow policemen, came to pick her up from work.
They took me out, and we got in the car, and Bob Hanley got in the back seat with me, and he was holding my hand. And I was trying to make some small talk about, I hope, he's okay, or just some kind of small talk. And he was squeezing my hand so hard, I thought to myself, there's something bad wrong, because my hand was hurting, and I didn't say anything, and I thought, no, there's something really, really wrong with Bill. And he was really driving fast, and then we got stopped by a train, and he really got upset, and I thought, oh, no, it's more than an injury. I thought he was, and I remember thinking to myself, God, just let him live till I get to the hospital, because I knew that he was bad. And when I got to the hospital, I saw all the police were there, and the chaplain and everything, and I said, I want to see Bill. And they just all looked at me. They were just kind of standing there looking at me when I walked in. I said, he's dead, isn't he? And they said, yes.
Some experts have counted as many as 33 different sources of stress in police work. But we're not talking about numbers. We're talking about people. What can the policeman do, if anything, to reduce or avoid the effects of stress?
Now, I think it's particularly important that police officers learn very early in their careers how to know when their pressure is building, how to read their bodies, and how to know when they feel that pressure, so that they can know when they need to release it, and then develop either exercise programs or different kinds of stress management or release programs so that they don't build that pressure unnecessarily.
Our little way of getting away from the pressure, we go hunting and fishing. We'll take, and when we get a day off, when we get them to coincide, my 3 or 4 policemen, we'll go up in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and we'll get away from everything. You don't hear the police radio. You don't worry about robbery in progress. Listen to the radio. A person has to have some way to get away from the pressures of the job.
The Chicago Police Department has programs to assist and support its officers and their families, a professional counseling service for marital and work-related problems, and a new trauma program for policemen who become their own victims, as in the case of a fatal shooting.
We know that any officer involved in a fatal shooting would automatically be involved in a traumatic police incident. We know that there are others, but that for sure is one that universally is difficult. Every officer who is seen in that program usually goes through an interview where they debrief psychologically from the pressure that builds from that particular experience.
There are programs to train policemen how to deal with life-threatening and life-taking situations. The purpose is to sharpen judgment and reduce the pressure in a shoot, don't shoot situation.
Watch the corners. They're coming around the corners.
We add a little physical calisthenics before they start shooting, get their heart pumped a little bit. They do a little bit of running. Each officer is told that they will confront targets, that he is to fire normally 2 rounds per target he feels should be fired upon.
Pick the correct target.
All this thing is trying to disrupt the main thought, and that is to fire upon your adversary, and the correct one.
You feel should be fired on. Kill shots, headshots. One more. Got it.
He's guided only into which area, what spots that he goes next. And he's also instructed that he listens to only one person, the man who is constantly at his side.
Mervyn! Mervyn! I told you to listen to me only! Come on!
With the different harassment techniques that we use to try to take their mind away from what they're, the concentration of what they're supposed to be doing.
Quick! No! Misfire! Guy on the left, machine gun!
We have hecklers, we'll have other distractions, and certainly you could have distractions out on the street. The difference in the targets that we're using for our stress course is that we have a colored type target, more real-like, picture of a man or a woman, as compared to the standard silhouette target that many departments use, something very similar to this. It forces the officer to look at what's in those people's hands for weapons. A little more psychological effect that somebody's looking back at them, perhaps. The biggest thing is they're different targets, each one. And I think that also increases some of their apprehension.
Right there! The good guy, the good guy! That's it!
Every target that I faced that would turn to me, no matter what course it was, we fired upon.
Left hand,
And that's just not the way it is out on the street. You just can't be firing your gun at everybody that you see. You have to make a decision. And this particular course forces them to decide which ones to fire upon, which ones not to fire upon, and I think that's very important.
Yep, watch these targets. Watch these targets. Hold it right there, that's enough. Take a look, which one? Guy on the left, Jack Crowbar! Got the cop again.
The point is, we want them to realize they're going to make mistakes. They're under a tremendous amount of stress in this particular course as compared to all the other courses that they've gone through.
As we said in the beginning, everyone faces stress. Every job has its pressures and its problems. But a cop is a special case. He is literally between that proverbial rock and the hard place. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, are we doing enough to support our policemen, to help them survive?
In my opinion, there's a tremendous void in terms of real effective care for police officers until they do something terrible. As soon as the copper makes a mistake, as soon as he drinks himself into trouble or is going on to his 4th marriage, or when it becomes severe, then all of a sudden there's all this concern.
Good afternoon.
But in the meantime, while this poor person is going into those first few years in a job, when all of these stresses are there and all of these new experiences and all of the sheer blood and terror he sees out there and all the mindless violence,
No questions, no problems, make your reliefs, be careful.
everybody just says, well, that's your job. It's your job. It's your job. Just go do it. Just go do it. Write your tickets, lock up those people, do your job. They are engaged in doing a noble thing, and that is working for peace and justice. Now, that can get all out of whack and that can certainly be abused, and not all police officers would agree with that, but the basic nature of the work of peace and justice is a noble and almost a divine thing.